Hello, my name is Arthur, and in this video we're going to just talk about map and making assets for our game effort. Now, I've made a bunch of trees because those are pretty easy. A little bench, a lamppost, a building, a cement block, and a newspaper box. And really, when it comes down to it, none of these things are all that difficult. Um, Most of what's going on here is really just putting in some effort and kind of thinking about what shape is a standard cement block that's used as a barrier in a street, or how can I make something that's close enough to looking like a picnic bench or a lamppost. There's tutorials for building, so I'm not very good at them, but considering this little 128 by 128 pixel image is all that was used on this, combined with a glass material and another pattern for wood, the same pattern that's on the bench. It's not that bad considering that it wasn't actually a huge amount of effort. And really, it's going to break down to filling in a game takes either people want to download that stuff, or well, if they're watching my videos, then probably be maybe leaning towards wanting to learn how to make content, or how to take the content out of Blender and get it into Godot. So for some of these things, it would depend. Is the building an enemy building? Maybe it should go into Godot as its own object. But if it's going to be part of the map, well, maybe it should go in as part of the map. And is it going to have breaking windows? Well, then all of the windows would need to be the same size. That way you could have one breaking window that gets placed onto the building in Godot. Obviously, that would take a bit of effort to do. I don't think that I'll be doing any breaking windows. Do you want to be able to kick the newspaper box around, or the picnic table, or will they be stationary? So you just decide those things. If it's stationary, oh, it can just be part of the map and be a static body on the map, and it's not that difficult to set up. But if it's going to be something interactable, then it should be exported into Godot by itself. For the road, what I did was I made a blend file, and I've already done the tutorial on how to make tile map tiles, and I've done it for 2D. Well, I decided that I could use that type of a tile map, and this is just a simplified one with a few tiles that can make a road. And I gave the road a little bit of elevation to make a little bit of interest to it. And when I did that, I considered the way this kinematic body is adjusting itself for the floor normal. So when I elevated it, I made sure that the flange beside it, or the ditch, if you rather look at it like a road, I made sure that it had enough area to be able to tame that angle down, rather than having it close to the road like in my 2D demonstration. It was quite close to the road, like around here, which would have introduced a harsh angle and caused the unit to pitch wildly while coming up onto the road, whereas this angle, he'll just pitch up a little bit and pitch down a little bit. So I considered the unit in the design of the tiles. And then my intention is that something like this could just be used right here in Blender to make the map. So I would duplicate them and use the control key. And if they're made the right size, they'll always land in the right place. Then they can just be rotated into position, and the next one can be put in, and just using the control key, they're going to land where we want them. And then once I've made a road, I can just select the tiles, Control J and join them, tab into edit mode, select them all, and we'll get that out of the way so we can see. Merge by distance, and it merges any of the overlapping vertices. And not all tiles will overlap fully. The dead end tile won't meet up fully with certain tiles, and the empty tile, I don't even know that the empty tile is necessary. It probably isn't. That tile could probably just be deleted. Then once I've made my road, what I did with my current map was I just added in, let's get that cursor where it should be at the world origin. I just added in a circle, made it an n-gon, and scaled it up to my world size. Then if you select, I think you select the thing that you're going to cut with first, and then the thing you want to cut second. And then you can tab into object mode, select all, mesh, knife project, and that should cut that shape out. And if we get into the view layer tab and disappear the road, we can delete the faces from that, and then join the circle to the road. If it goes right, the circle will take on the texture of the road, which then the circle needs to be given a texture that's comparable with the road green. Then in edit mode, we would select all, merge by distance, and it will join the road to the vertices that were cut into the n-gon. Now in this example, it's not going to work right because all roads have to end with my dead end tile, because it ends with a Z0, so it's the only tile that can end a road to bring it down to meet up with the floor. So the other ends are not going to meet up with the floor because they don't have the right tile to end a road. So we'll just close that up. We don't need to save that. Then with my trees, what I did was I've started making them with by adding images as planes and using the knife tool to cut them out. So basically what I have is I have an old blend file that's got a whack load of trees in it. I've rendered some images of the trees, and I'll just take the images into GIMP, crop them to content. So that's image crop to content, and that will crop away all of the empty canvas and then overwrite the render file. What that ended me up with is a few images of trees. I would open these as planes and knife cut around them, and then stand them up and use a second tree image, knife cut around on a 90-degree angle to the first image. And that comes up with my new tree. They're not as busy as the other trees, and I think that they're working a little bit better. By doing it images as planes, the transparency is already present in Godot, so there's less setup. So when it comes to getting the better quality assets, doing something like wrapping your assets helps a lot. Like, things come along much better. And whereas the lamppost, it comes across much differently without any kind of wrap on it. And something like the stone block, it comes across a little bit nicer. And the only thing I did to make the image for it was make a 128 by 128 gray canvas and put some HSV noise on it. And the same thing with the bricks. Excuse me. The bricks are just 128, 128. And this is just a built-into GIMP pattern. And again, I throw some noise on it. I went around it a little bit with the clone tool to mute some very distinctive bricks so that they were less distinctive, because that tames the repeating pattern a bit. But the only real way to get rid of the repeating pattern is to do the extra work on the UV wrap and make the UV wrap a little more customized, because the customized UV wrap creates a nicer object than using the repeating pattern. The repeating pattern might work for a wooden bench, but for buildings and larger things, and even on my road, it's a little bit sketchy. And my meetup for my material between the road and outside of the road is, well, I can very clearly see where the road tile ends and the outside end gone begins. It's not very difficult to see that. So as roads go, that's kind of, well, it most certainly could be better. Like, a person can go to more work to make their roads. The thing to remember with that, though, is that the more customized we want to make the road, the more images that we're going to need. Or we're going to get into things that maybe don't come across so good when it comes to taking things into Godot. Like this material for the light, I really have no idea if that emission's going to come through. I imagine I'm going to have to set that material up. And yeah. So that's pretty much it. That's about all I have to say. I don't actually know how to bump map into Godot yet. I still have to look into that to find out what can be done with that. And I haven't seen bump mapping there. I see normal mapping. I think that might be what I'm looking for, but I'm not sure. So what I was thinking of doing now is maybe putting aside the kinematic body tanks and start looking at what kind of effect I can get with a rigid body vehicle. And I'm probably going to stick with an RTS kind of thing, and maybe try a Jeep first or something, and just see how a rigid body handles. Then the other idea I have in my head is I was thinking that maybe trying an effort where there is no flying camera and sort of explore the idea of having units with cameras. And I don't mean like a single vehicle that drives around. I mean all of the units having cameras and playing an RTS from the point of view of the vehicles. And maybe making the vehicle selectable by menu list or something like that. And see what that would come out like. Because once I put the work into the assets and get them into a map, I'm probably not going to want to fly around over top of them like this, where I'm going to want to be down on the road and sort of at the vehicle level and see if that can work out. So that's just a thought I have in my head. I don't know how to get that to work yet, but I think that I can. So yeah, I'm likely to look at kind of a restart on the vehicles to try that rigid body, because that's the other kind of vehicle that I have never tried that. So that's kind of similar to the vehicle body, but it's kind of different too, because I didn't find the vehicle body worked that good. But maybe a rigid body will perform in a way that's different and desirable. I don't know. I just think it's worth an effort to try, so that's what I'm going to do. So I hope this was helpful, and until the next video, take care.